Hello, Rebels. Today we are going to go into day 3 of the article titled San Antonio Chili Queens. On day 1, we looked at some historical information to give you background knowledge on this topic. You also were able to learn how to preview a text, which basically means to go into the text prior to reading it and look at those text features and clues to give you an understanding of the text prior to reading. On day 2, we did a first read of the article, and we were able to figure out the main idea of the entire passage, as well as some of the paragraphs. Today, we're going to go into author's purpose. Let me start off by explaining what author's purpose means. I know you know this. You've covered this skill before in ELA in 6th grade, and maybe even at the beginning of the year in this class. The author's purpose is the author's intended reason for writing the text. Now, on the right side of the screen, you see several words, and there's more words that should be on this list, but to condense it and not take up the whole screen, we'd be here all day going through each one of them. I just pulled out the most popular words that I have seen on assessments over the last couple of years. So there's more than this. These are all verbs. A verb is an action word. A verb is a word that does something. Let me break it down for you just a tad bit. An author writes a passage, a text, or an article for a particular reason. Sometimes you're reading a specific article or passage because maybe the author wants to persuade you to believe in something, to vote for something, to agree with him or her on a certain topic. Maybe the article or passage you are reading is comparing and contrasting two different topics. And we see that a lot in art core classes. You may see a compare and contrast passage in your textbook in science or history, and for sure in ELA. Maybe you are reading an article or a passage and it highlights. It goes into detail, maybe on a particular person, a historical figure, and it highlights it as a feature on that person. Maybe the article or passage you are reading is meant, the author is trying to teach you something. And I could go on, but do you see how each one of these words is an action word? And you start to think about the things you've read in your classes, there's always an intended purpose. Let's go ahead and go to the next slide. Now, when looking at author's purpose questions, I always tell my students a best practice is to highlight the verb that are in the answer choices. And as you highlight, that you make sure you understand what each word means. These answer choices, the words that I highlighted are explain, encourage, celebrate, improve. Now, this is where if you see a word you don't know what it means, you would grab a dictionary or look it up. And you would write that definition next to the word just to make sure you understand what the verb means. Once you highlight the words, you're going to go into the actual answer choices. So the question says, the author wrote the selection most likely to. So it's an author's purpose question regarding the entire passage, not a particular paragraph. Let's make sure to always pay attention to what is being asked. Because there will be some times where the question is asking you to go into a specific question. So, did the author write this passage to explain the process and how to perfect the recipe of chili con carne? Did the author write this passage to encourage other chefs to keep their cultures, traditions, and memories alive through their cooking? Did the author of this selection write this passage to celebrate the anniversary of the year the Chili Queens opened their door? Or did the author write this passage to prove that you can do anything you set your mind to? It's important that when you are making your answer selections, you follow a process similar to mine or the way I showed you. Remember, break apart the questions the way I did, and then use that 50-50 rule. I'm going to go ahead and give you 2 of the answers that I would take off if I were you. Let's go ahead and use the color red. Now I'm going to go ahead and mark off answer choice A. The author did not write this passage to explain the process how to perfect the recipe of chili con carne. In fact, there really isn't anywhere in the article where the author explains the recipe. The other answer choice I'm going to take off is answer choice C. Nowhere in the paper does it talk about celebrations, and nowhere in the paper, the article, does it talk about an anniversary. So now your job now is to decide between answer choice B and answer choice D. You're going to do the same method when you do these on your own. I want you to make sure to understand what is being asked, highlight the verbiage, break apart the answer choices, and use the 50-50 rule. Good luck.